right, it is a brand new episode of the Quintessential Show here on YouTube. And man, oh man, like I told you in the opening video of 2019, we were going to talk about finance because we need to understand finance in South Africa. We need guys who have done it before to kind of give us the information of what we need to do to become financially independent in South Africa. Today, I am joined by Albert van Wyk. He is the author of this book. It is How to Become a Millionaire at 22. An entire book about how to become a millionaire at 22. Albert, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Quintus. Thanks for having me on the show. Really excited. This year is kicking off with a bang. So, no, we are having fun.
No, yeah, listen, Happy New Year, man. Does a new year make you kind of feel like, hey, it's a new tax year, I'm ready to make more money?
Well, I didn't take holiday in December, so I was working straight through. So for me, it doesn't really feel like it's a new, fresh start. It's just a continuum of what we've been doing. But we have a lot of new things planned for this year, new things set up. So I'm very excited. I'm going to take, I think, my first holiday. I'm going to Bloemfontein in 2 weeks. And then from there in April, I'm in Durban. So then I'm going to rest a bit.
Yes.
But so we worked really hard over the holidays to get everything ready for 2019. So I'm super amped.
Good work. Now, look, Albert is all about, teaching people how to get towards their financial independence in South Africa, which is a tough ask because we're always surrounded by these headlines that say that South Africa is not doing well. I'll give you an example of one of them I read in the Business Tech. BusinessTech.co.za, they had one about the Heritage Foundation that was ranking South Africa 77th out of 180 countries in terms of economic freedom. So we're doing quite bad when a lot of people aren't economically free in the country. They went on to say economic freedom is the fundamental right of every human to control his or her own labor and property in an economically right in an economically free society. Individuals are free to work, produce, consume, and invest in any way they please. And South Africa is not doing well in terms of that. So, Albert, I think it's quite clear that South Africans are struggling to be financially independent. But despite the doom and gloom, there's you, and you seem very positive. How do you remain so positive in South Africa with an economic system that doesn't make you feel positive?
I think wherever you are in the world, there will always be external circumstances that has some kind of negative effect on you, no matter where you are. I mean, last year we just heard about the Paris, the economic situation there, and a lot of people would say, "Hey, no, we should get out of South Africa. We should go overseas." But they have similar problems there, not as worse. But I think the thing is that we just need to change our minds. We are not letting the external circumstances take control of our financial future, of our financial independence. And we need to take the responsibility upon ourselves to say, hey, how can I improve my financial future? Quintus, there's businesses in South Africa making billions as we speak. And there's other businesses going bankrupt, right? In the same economy. You can say the economy is bad. You can say, we're going down, it's not good. But that also creates opportunities for the person that has the correct mindset. It creates opportunities for them to succeed. So I think it's all about you, all about deciding that you take responsibility for your financial future. And then by doing that, you create that positivity for yourself. Because I see people selling their houses now because they can't afford it. Well, I'm buying houses, right? It's just because the thinking is different. I did an interview yesterday where the guy asked me, what can we do in January if we don't have money to get through the month? And I said, the first thing you should do is stop being on the defensive. Stop saying, I can't afford to get through this month. I don't have money, right? Rather go on the offense. Say, how can I afford to get through this month? How can I get money to get through this month? Now you're thinking. Now you can be positive. Now you have energy. Now you're looking for opportunities. So I think it's all about that.
Yeah, I think the problem with the South African society is that a lot of people don't get this in school, and this is something that you've been wanting to do. Now, let me give you an idea. I have a cousin that has just joined matric, and I worry about those kind of kids because they don't have the kind of financial well-being tips and tools that they need at a matric level already, because they're about to, go to university after this, and still there you have a little bit of a problem. So a lot of South African students are also starting matric and leaving matric this year. What are some of the financial fundamentals you think South African students should have by the time they're in matric or by the time they leave school? Because I've seen you've been going around to schools and talking to them. What are you telling them?
Yeah, so no, we've been across the whole country speaking at schools, and it's a big problem, Quintus. School kids go into life without the necessary financial fundamentals. So things I teach them is, first of all, again, thinking differently, not thinking like most of our older generation does. Most of our older generation has a certain way of thinking about finance and money. We need to change that to say, look, like I just said, be responsible, create your own financial future. You're not going to necessarily be able to depend on government or on corporate or on whoever to give you money. Like, you need to become self-sufficient. So that's the first thing, telling them a bit about mindset. And then I tell them about what is a return on investment? What is an investment? What should you do with your money? Should you invest it? Should you save it? Don't spend it all. A lot of the times what we do as students is we actually spend all of the money we get, because it's students and it's parties and it's cars or whatever, flats or whatever it is. And the thing is, it's such a bad thing to do, because then you put yourself on the back foot in the beginning of your career, right? When that matriculant goes out, starts his first job, and with his first paycheck, he goes and buys a car on credit or whatever. Yeah. And then he puts himself on the back foot in the beginning of his career. And the issue is, whenever he gets that raise, whenever he gets the new job, then he gets married and he has kids that now extra expense. Whenever he gets that extra raise or whatever, then his kids needs to go to university. So there's another expense. So they never get ahead. So one of the other things I teach is start investing right now, start saving right now, start getting ahead of your expenses. Invest 70% of what you earn, only live on 30%. That's a quick tip. That's a quick rule, because now you're building momentum, right? And that's what you want. You want to build momentum with your finances. You want to keep on growing that so that you have that freedom, so that you have that independence. When stuff happens, you have that wealth that you can utilize.
Yeah, but I mean, in your book and in your podcast that we will get to, I mean, you profess that even in your matric year, you were being an entrepreneur and you were like a business owner, even in your matric year. I mean, that's quite a heavy task on a lot of people who are just trying to scrape by in matric. And I mean, in South Africa, that's the kind of thing that a lot of students do. They're trying to just scrape by. So, I mean, what is something easy in matric, for example, that you could do to get some income? Just to get some money and start putting that money away eventually. What are the small things?
So there's a thing I call a life stock take, a stock take of your life. And this is something real easy. A primary school kid can do this, a high school kid, a student, wherever. If you're currently working, whatever you're doing, you can apply this. So it's literally 3 stock takes. So the first stock take is a skill set stock take. So just look at your skills, right? Can you play guitar? I used to teach guitar lessons while I was in high school. Eventually, I started hiring the guys that I taught to teach other people. So eventually, it was a big music school. So I mean, can you play guitar? Can you speak a language that someone else can't speak? I mean, in primary school, I could mow the lawn. Now, I could clean rooms. So that was a skill that I had that other people were willing to pay for. So just take a little paper, write down a list of all of the skills that you have that other people would be willing to pay for. I mean, if you're good at your matric maths and other people struggling, you could give tutoring lessons. I mean, that's a skill that you have. So that's the first thing. I think that's very easy for anyone to implement. Take a look at your skills, and you might be surprised by the skills that you have that other people would actually want to pay money for to get. And then the second one is an asset stock take.
Yeah.
Look at all of the assets you have. Do you have secondhand phones lying around? Do you have, I used to sell my parents and my neighbors stuff. So that's assets. Like I went to the house and be like, is that an old washing machine that you're not using? They'll be like, yeah, it's just standing there. I'm like, what if I can get you $1,000 for that?
Yeah.
And they would be like, sure. And then I would sell it for like $2,000 and make 1,000.
Yeah.
So just walk around the house, walk around your neighborhood, walk around your family's houses or whatever, and look at all of the assets that they actually have that they're not using. Old bicycles, washing machines, TVs, old phones. Every one, if you open their closet, there's a lot of phones lying there that's not being used. Laptops, anything, assets. Yeah. So write down all of the assets that you can sell or rent out. Maybe your uncle has an open room in the house that he doesn't use. So you can rent it out on Airbnb, make a deal with him to handle everything, and then you split the profit or something.
Yeah.
And then the third thing that you need to do is a network stock take. So go and write down all of the people you know that someone else would be willing to pay for to know. For example, at university, I knew the second year students wanted some cash, right? And the first year students wanted to sell their old books. The second year students wanted to sell their old books for cash.
Yeah.
The first year students wanted new books for next year.
Mm-hmm.
I literally knew both parties. I knew them. I went on the WhatsApp group of the first year guys and said, hey guys, who wants new books for next year? And I went on the second year WhatsApp group and said, hey guys, who wants to make cash?
Yeah.
I literally at the same place, got the money from the first year, paid the second year, took my cut, took the book from the second year and gave it to the first year. Just by knowing, having a network with some people, you can easily make money. That old lady that you know that wants to sell her car, your friend that you know wants a new car, you can just make the connection.
Yeah, but it's also being willing to do the jobs that some people don't want to do, because you get so comfortable making your salary and all of these kinds of things, or just getting pocket money from your dad if you're in matric, and you become comfortable with that kind of stuff, and you never think about the jobs that I don't want to do. And then the people who actually go and do those things, eventually start building up income like you did. But let's go back to schools, because you did like a cross country school tour last year, and I imagine you're going to be doing one this year. Give us an idea of and some of the highlights of your cross country school tour last year, and then tell us what those kids' testimonies were, because I want to know, are there kids out there that are getting the message, that are like, we're going to build a better South Africa, we're going to build a more financially independent South Africa?
Yeah, so my main message that I give when I go to schools is that you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it in this economy in South Africa. And how can you change your mindset to think differently in order to do it, and what do you need to do it? So I do talks where I go to a school, speak for an hour, just portray that message, and then other talks where I have a 7-week course that I spend at the school, going through the 7-week course. So from both types of visits, I had a lot of testimonies. I mean, I had kids telling me they're putting Aitjies. They're putting Aitjies and they're selling lettuce and vegetables and stuff. Another guy was selling meat. There was a guy that made knives that started selling that. There was another guy that made cloves. I mean, so all of this, they started their businesses. They started selling stuff, and I get messages every now and then, every week, of people telling me, "Hey, Albert, my business is now generating this. I've been building it. What's the next step? What should I do here? What should I do there?" So constantly being in contact with these guys from the schools. I just last night there was a guy that said he's selling earthworms. Yeah, earthworms. He's selling earthworms to local fishing shops, and he wanted to know how he can improve his sales skills, whatever. So a lot of awesome testimonies. People messaging me, telling me, "Albert, look, you've changed the way I think. My parents were like, you need to go to school, study, get a job, and I can see them struggling. But you've given me hope to say, look, I can do this. I can create income for myself." So, yeah, we've been all over the country: Pietersburg, Cape Town, Polokwane is Pietersburg, Gauteng, and in Makupane, in Kudumela. We were in Lichtenburg, Vicksburg, everywhere. teaching at schools, really trying to motivate them and empower them.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think you're doing a great job because when I was, in high school, I think even back then, we're talking about 2009, 10, 11, 12. You kind of missed out on that financial knowledge. Our accounting teacher tried to give us a newspaper with a whole bunch of stocks in, and I mean, giving that to a grade 9 pupil who just wants to watch Dragon Ball Z at the end of the day is like, it's a bit too tough to do it. But I do believe that finance has become a bit more accessible to even the young ones now in the year 2019 in South Africa. But why is it that our school systems just do not disseminate the information that we need to kind of do our taxes, to kind of invest or, purchase property? We never get that kind of stuff.
I think entrepreneurship is all about being resourceful, right? So I think that the schools wants to teach because I remember when I was in primary school, I learned about debits and credits but I didn't even know what that was. And I had accounting in university, and there I learned about an income statement and a tax statement, etc. But I never learned how to make a good investment. I never learned about how to spot a good investment or how to grow my money or how to save. And I think all of those things is about being resourceful. I think it's about where you are in your situation, in your town, in your community, with your skill set, with your assets. How can you make that into money? How can you use that to generate wealth? How can you use that to create income or to save or to invest? And I think that's what's lacking. I think the school systems are too much focused on the theory, on like the numbers and the stuff that doesn't really teach you how to become wealthy. I think we should change the focus, and that's what I'm doing with my courses, is change the focus to change the way they think about becoming more resourceful, to be able to create your own wealth. And I think that's where the secret is.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, even in privatized schooling, you don't get this, entrepreneurial information that makes you, the minute you get out of school, you're ready to be an entrepreneur. We kind of just direct them all the way into universities. And sometimes universities aren't the answer for some people who want to take up a trade or become an entrepreneur in that trade. But you're starting to run a course called How to Start with a whole bunch of other entrepreneurs. So who can attend these kind of things? Because I imagine there's a lot of people who want to become entrepreneurs in South Africa, and now you guys are telling them how to start. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So we have a lot of courses throughout the year. We have the school courses, which is called Young Millionaires, which I do in collaboration with young entrepreneurs. Awesome organization trying to get the right financial education for the youth. Then I have 6 Zeros to a Million, which we do in collaboration with School of Life. So that's school courses. And then we do the courses or the talks where all kinds of entrepreneurs of any age can come. So it's a How to Start one, where we teach exactly how to start your business, how to start your entrepreneurial journey. We've had, every year we have one in Pretoria, that one. And then we have a How to Entrepreneur one, which was a big one this year. There was over 190 entrepreneurs attending. And we talked about how to be an entrepreneur. So I think all of these things, they can check it on the website, www.millionaire22, or they can follow me on Facebook or Instagram, and then they'll see all of these events. There's a lot of them through the year. There's also the Sake Slim Congress in Bloemfontein. That's something similar. And I think if you want to become an entrepreneur, if you want to improve your finance, if you want to grow your wealth, I think it's very important for you to listen to podcasts like this, to follow the social media feed of videos and vlogs and stuff, and to attend these events. Because you can learn directly from the entrepreneur. You can meet them, you can see them, you can understand how they think and how they see South Africa.
Yeah, I think the benefit in what you're doing as well is that, look, you have a lot of these physical space events, but you also have your videos coming out this year and your podcast. Now, Millionaire Insights with Albert van Wyk is, you can now read the Millionaire 22 book, and then you can move on to listening to the podcast. So you started this podcast, and now you're also going and talking to other entrepreneurs there, which I think is also an element of giving people, mentorship in the financial space, because you're having conversations with these entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs entrepreneurs can listen to it and kind of, copy and paste some of the things that you say in the podcasts. But give me an idea of hosting this podcast now. Have you learned during that podcast, production phase? I mean, what are the kind of things that you've picked up from other entrepreneurs that you're like, well, that's a good idea?
Yeah, no, a lot. I learned a lot because I started the podcast with only me giving financial content, but then I started adding interviews with other entrepreneurs, and I think that's great because every entrepreneur has his specific or her specific journey, her specific challenges or his specific challenges, and sometimes it's things that you have not faced yet. And sometimes it's things that you exactly are facing right now. I think 2 podcasts back, I had an interview with Grant Smee, and he's a master at scaling business, right? He has like 7 businesses that run separately, automatically, no problem, and big businesses. And I was at that stage. I was exactly at the point where I needed to really scale my business to the next level. And then you can learn from them. So I think it's a great journey. I think the entrepreneurs listening to the podcast can learn a lot about their entrepreneurial journey and take lessons from all of these different entrepreneurs to kind of add to their toolbox. And I think it makes your journey just so much easier if you have those things in your toolbox already.
Yeah. Now, if you familiarize yourself with Albert van Wyk, he does a lot of property investment knowledge. Well, he kind of disseminates that information. And that's quite different to a lot of the other stuff that you get online, because a lot of the other stuff is, like investing in stocks, etc., etc. But you have chosen property investment as obviously one of the things that has made you a millionaire at 22 historically. So tell me about property investment specifically. I mean, in the year 2019, with the surface level language of the country being that land is going to be expropriated and property rights are under threat. That's kind of the language that gets put out there, even though some of the draft legislation doesn't really, attack your personal properties. But the language exists in our country now. So tell me about that as a property owner and a person who has kind of made his money off of this. How do these kind of things make you feel, and how do you just kind of quell some of that anxiousness from the language of the country you're hearing?
I'm completely peaceful. Like I like it when media puts a heavy throw on things, because people that is not resourceful, that doesn't want to take the risk, or that doesn't know about the industry, are the first ones to say, hey, no, don't invest, don't stay. I heard on the news that they're doing that. In actual fact, and I'm not giving any advice, I'm not telling anyone to go and buy property right now. But in actual fact, the investors that I speak to, the people that I meet in my network, is all investing right now. They're all buying property because the property price dropped so low because of everyone being afraid. It's so great for us as investors now to just pick up the properties like that. And there's a lot of things that's behind the scenes that you don't always see if you just watch the media. And I think that, again, it's back to, are you resourceful? Are you an entrepreneur? Or are you a consumer that's listening to whatever people say without doing the research and doing the homework about it? But if there's people out there afraid about their land being taken or their property being taken, a quick, easy tip, right? Tip is just bond your house. Okay? If you have a house that's worth R1 million, go to the bank, bond the house for R1 million, and then you have that capital. If they come and take your property, you have your money, right? Easy as that. Like, people are stressing because they're going to lose their house. But if you just take all of the capital out of the house, if they take it, then they're going to have to settle the bill with ABSA. The bond is that. So just take your capital out. You can then use that capital to either invest it in some investment or keep it somewhere, or just keep the bond open. So if you see they want to come and take your property, you just quickly go on your laptop and pull all of the funds from it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's like simple things that you can really do just to protect your assets, and clever things if you are financially educated. So I think the first thing is you need to start reading books. If you're worried about South Africa's finance and your financial future and property and your assets, start reading books about that. Start educating yourself. Start being proactive.
Yeah, no, I definitely think you have it right there that if you tune into the news, you kind of get this skewed image of what's happening, and then it kind of makes you feel like, oh, listen, maybe I shouldn't go invest. I mean, I'll tell you that from my side. I mean, you look at the 2019 situation and the language from 2018, and you kind of think, I'm a millennial that is waiting to invest because everything feels so uncertain. But I mean, if you had to always look at what's going to be uncertain in the world, you wouldn't send any transactions out of your account, you know.
Exactly. You have to be in the race to win it, right? If you're going to be afraid of the risk. When I wanted to buy my first property, they said, no, South Africa's in a recession, don't buy property. I bought my first property. When I wanted to buy my second property, they just fired like the financial minister or something. No, that was with my third one. So with the third one, they fired the financial minister, and they said, don't buy property now. So I bought my third property, you know, and with my second one, we were also in some kind of recession or something. So if you're going to wait for the perfect time to buy property, it's never going to be there, right? If you're going to wait for that. So you need to be proactive. You need to go out, take the risk, do the thing, and then it'll pay off. I mean, all of my properties that I've purchased so far has been profitable, has been growing, despite what the media, what the economy, what people were saying at that time.
Yeah, but give me an idea of how a millennial goes about getting their first property. Because let me give you an example. You have a person who's just left university and now they're getting a salary and they're like, listen, got to fly the coop. I got to go somewhere. I got to get a place of my own. So give us the tips of how you get that first property.
Okay, so the first thing in terms of property is sometimes you don't have the capital to do it. The best thing would be if you, like in my case, had businesses through high school and businesses through varsity that can generate capital for you to actually make an investment. But if you do not have any capital at this stage, then you are going to have to get a loan from the bank. So in that case, if you're let's say you're in your first job right now, and you want a property, the worst thing that you can do is mess up your financials when you try to buy a car on credit, right? That's because now it shows the bank that you already have a loan. You already have to pay a car monthly. So what you want to do with your finances is that salary that you get, you want to keep that cash flow or that income as high as possible. So limit all kind of car loans, limit high phone, credits and etc. Try to keep your expenses as low as possible and your income as high as possible. And then you can present that to the bank and it looks way better to get a loan. But a lot of people put themselves on the back foot. They get a car, they get a nice phone, they get a tablet, they get a laptop, all on credit. And then their credit score is really, really bad.
Yeah.
So, what you need to do is just check how you can improve your credit score, keep your credit nice, and then you can go and apply for a loan at the bank. And then if you buy a property, don't buy a property without calculating the return on investment. Don't buy a property without knowing the area very well. You might, burn your fingers and make a big mistake. So educate yourself first, know how to calculate return on investment, know what it is, know what's a good investment, know the area, know all of those things before you get in. Because you want your property to be an asset. You want it to be able to generate income for you.
Yeah, for sure. Now tell me, Albert, as an entrepreneur yourself, obviously you get into this, kind of community of entrepreneurs, and suddenly you have a whole bunch of guys saying, listen, I've got a great thing for you to invest in. And so it's like, they come with all their schemes, like
at least every day I get about 3 to 4 business ideas or proposals that I should look at.
Yeah. But I want you to tell me, because even a friend came to me and said, listen, I've got a whole bunch of group of friends that want to start maybe putting some money and pooling it together and maybe buying properties, and then we'll go buy another property or some sort of crypto investment fund, and I'm sitting there going like, this is too much for me to handle, because I first need to figure out what to invest in that genuinely will give me a return on investment, not these things, we're building castles in the sky with our minds. So in terms of club investments, right, tell me about the teamwork of club investments. Are there kind of club investments that you can join today? Are you part of an investment club that actually gets it right and means money for all? Because I think South Africa has this, stokvel mentality that we'll pool it up and we'll create these little clubs and money will come. Talk to me about that.
I think it's a great thing to work together, right? We need to work together to get ahead. We need to work together to create a future for ourselves. So I'm all for working together, right? But there's so many success stories about investment clubs, and then there's so many horrible stories about Ponzi schemes and investment stuff that went south. Okay, so first things first, don't invest in anything you do not know anything about. Okay, so if your friend's like, he's this expert in whatever, but you don't know anything about it, don't put your money with him because you don't know anything about it, right? So before you make any investment, make sure you know about that industry, what it entails. Get someone experienced, because a lot of times that's the first thing. When all of these people message me with business ideas, the first thing I ask is, what kind of experience do you have? No, I just have this idea and I know it will work. I just need the funding. And then I'm like, but what have you done so far? Because an analogy that I used, I did a talk for the Lions under 19 team. And this guy said the same thing. I have one of the guys, he said, I have this idea, I just need the funding. And then I used this analogy of rugby, right? And I told him, okay, so let's say I have a rich uncle or someone that can fund my talks and my gear, and it can fund my supplements and fund my training. And he even buys my place on the team, right? Now I'm there, Albert van Wyk. I'm right next to you on the rugby field. And I played rugby in Billikie rugby last, right? And they're like, no, you're going to die. I'm like, yeah, exactly. After the first tackle, I'm going to be down, right? But I'm right there and you're going to have to pass the ball to me. And I think it's the same in finance. A lot of people has this idea or has this plan or has this investment opportunity without having the experience. You need to start small. You need to take some tackles first. You need to learn the industry. You need to make the mistakes before putting all of your money in that. Go get the experience first, or get someone that's really experienced in what they're doing and understand the market, understand the industry, understand the investment before you just run on the field and you've never played this game before.
Yeah, and look, you're a proponent of getting experience. Like, if you don't have people to push you in the right direction, you say reading books is one of the most important things that you can do. You've started a book feature this year on your Facebook page and your Instagram page. Tell me more about the kinds of books that you're going to be telling people to read, because I think this is a very, very important function of learning finances, because it seems to me that, like we said, it's not happening in schools, but once you pick up a book or two, you start reading. Let me give you an idea. I read some Wall Street book. I thought, listen, I want to start investing. I want to get there. And eventually you find these things called like A Lonely Walk Down Wall Street and those kind of books. And eventually you start reading these things, and it's very tough at the beginning of reading a financial book, because you're like, wow, these are a lot of terms I've never heard before. But eventually, the more and more you read these books, the more and more small sentences start popping out. And suddenly you start learning and start saying, can I get that same thing that this guy spoke of in South Africa? Then you start researching what South Africa has. Soon, you're putting money into exchange traded funds and all of these kinds of things. And that's just by reading books. So tell me about the books and what books have done for you in your journey.
I owe all of my success, or I can't say all, because I have a great support structure and family and friends and people around me that really helped me along this journey in terms of support and motivation. But all of my financial success, most of it, I owe to books. The amount of knowledge that I gained from that, I started reading at a very young age. My dad is actually the one who gave me my first book. And he said, Albert, read this. You need to read these things, because all the generation didn't learn these things. And especially if you come from a family where your parents were not business owners, they were not accountants or investors or whatever, who's going to teach you, right? So I started reading books. And the knowledge that sits in the back of your mind just by reading that, just like you said now, right? It changes the way you think, because now you started seeing new things. It changes the way you spend your time, because now you were 12 o'clock at night Googling exchange funds or whatever. So it changes the whole way you see the world. And that just puts you in such a better position to seize opportunities, to notice opportunities, to know what to do with those opportunities. I always say luck is success or opportunity meets preparation, right? There's opportunities every day, even in South Africa. And if you prepared, if you read the books, if you had the experience and you get to that point, you can seize that opportunity. So yeah, definitely books, reading books, super important. And so on my book feature, I'm going to start with beginner books that beginner entrepreneurs should read, because like you said, you might pick up a book and it's very high financial lingo, but there are books that's really entry-level books for entrepreneurs and business people. So I'm going to start with that. Then I'm going to feature a lot of local books. There's actually a lot of local entrepreneurs stepping up now and writing books. Because when I was small, I also had to read these books from America and the UK, and but there's a lot of local entrepreneurs that started writing books that's very applicable, that you can execute on. And then I'll maybe feature a few intermediate books or for established entrepreneurs that people can read. I really think it will make a massive difference.
And you're writing a new book, right? Let me show our people your first one, which was How to Become a Millionaire at 22. You're now a couple years older than 22.
I'm 26 now. That's so old.
So now you have to write a new one. How to Remain a Millionaire at 26. Is that the new title?
No, but I'm not going to release the new title right now. But I have a new title. I'm busy writing. I'll most probably publish it 2020. So my deadline is for end of this year. 2020, I'll kick off the new book. It's going to be a much thicker book. And, I'm really excited about that. So yeah, I am busy writing the second book.
Yeah, no, look, I think it's a feat that not a lot of people get to eventually, because I mean, people are on their investment journeys and it takes them forever to get to where they are. And you've gotten there in quite a short time, and now you're trying to give that knowledge to people. I really think it's a good idea. Now, you went to a lot of radio stations, and something didn't sit well with me on one of the interviews that I heard from a radio station you went to. It was 5FM, and they had taken an SMS off of the SMS line, and somebody said, whilst you were trying to teach people via the radio of why you are so successful, somebody said, this sounds like the voice of white monopoly capital just talking,
I remember that one.
Right. And I heard that and I thought, out of your own, why would you go and give people financial knowledge if it's met with cynicism like that? And I really believe that cynicism of, trying to blame the current economic shortfalls on something that's almost invisible makes me feel that there's so much cynicism about finances in South Africa, and I worry about that because there's people out there that are not investing their money because they do not trust the capitalist system, as it were, in South Africa.
Yes.
So give me an idea of that, right? I mean, you're trying your best to be a financial help guru. What is it for you that makes you want to continue doing this when you kind of get that backlash and people say, what, it's not worth you telling me these things because I'm not going to listen?
I get a lot of people that tell me, but it's easy for you because you don't have a family yet, or it's easy for you because of a white capital or something, or it's easy for you because you're a millennial and you didn't grow up in my age, or whatever. There's so many excuses that people have, and I think it's because they don't want to take responsibility upon themselves. Being 22, being able to get together R1 million at the age of 22 means that somehow other people should have been able to do that as well. And they don't want to take that responsibility, and then they kind of just push the blame, or they want to create an excuse to protect themselves. And I'm okay with that. I don't let that divert me from the mission, from the route, from the goal, because the positive feedback that I get is just immaculate. The number of people saying, but this changed my life. This gave me a new perspective. This changed my finances. I was in a rut, but now I saved my business. That type of feedback is what keeps me going, because my dream is to really make a difference in South Africa in terms of economy, really make a difference for people in their personal lives to be able to afford their dreams. That's what it's all about, enabling people to afford their dreams. And I think with the cynicism and the bad feedback, I think it's just a matter of telling people that, hey, everyone has their own story. They don't know my story. Like when they were in high school, did they work till 12 at night? I mean, when I was in high school, I didn't even take June, July holiday and matric. I was studying every morning. I woke up at 7, studied till 12 at night to get my grades up in matric so I can possibly get a bursary.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the things I was doing when I was a matric while my friends were partying and going on holiday or sitting at home and doing nothing. I mean, so for someone to give the blame for someone else without walking in that person's shoes, without understanding that person, I mean, they don't know that I'm working 12 till 12 o'clock every day of my life, every night, building my businesses. They don't know where my history comes from.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked on the road with a shovel, right? That was where we were at as a family. My dad grew up in a trailer park. I mean, my grandfather drove the tractor, and then my dad was able to work on the roads, etc. But we don't come from a generation of wealth, and we had our own struggles.
Yeah.
So I think we should look past that. We should take responsibility on our own lives and say, where am I? Where am I at? And how can I improve that? Not to measure yourself. I'm not measuring myself with an Elon Musk and saying, hey, where's my spaceship and where's my Lambo and stuff. Like, I know where I come from.
Yeah.
I know where I want to go. And I'm measuring myself, my success according to that.
Yeah.
And can I use what I have now, my limited resources, or what I have, my skill set or whatever, to get me there?
Yeah, I think the generalizations that happen in our society at the moment really isolate some people and make them feel like they're alone in South Africa, and then you never want to go and invest because you feel like there is just no road to do so. Plus, I was watching ENCA the other day, and one of my lecturers from university, one of my visual culture lecturers, was saying something perfect about what the state has done in terms of producing semi-literates that aren't reading the books, that are becoming very dependent on the state. And I think that is bad practice. Look, you don't need to accept of capitalism, but you do need to understand that you cannot depend on somebody else and hope for the day that some sort of free handout is suddenly going to land on your lap. You cannot do it. It's bad practice all around South Africa. And there are people in private schools and public schools that suddenly just get this, and then they move into becoming a brand, doing a good job, finding a job, then investing. Some people do actually get the information they need, and other people start saying, what is it that I didn't get that you suddenly got? And they start coming up with these nonsensical, invisible ideas for why someone is more, capable and more rich than they are. But it's like you said, hard work essentially pays off.
And take the responsibility upon yourself. I mean, I in my previous podcast, I said, what is success? What is success for you? If you want to go to Mars, like Elon Musk, then you need like $40 billion. That's going to be success for you, right? But if your success might be to go to Cape Town, right? That's going to be 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 rand, right? So that's success for you. So where are you at? And then not blaming anyone else for having that type of success, because they're going on a different mission. They're reaching for a different goal. Taking responsibility on yourself to educate yourself to do that. But it's not just, I think that what you just mentioned about people waiting for handouts, I actually see that all around us. It's a corporate structure as well. There's millions of people in South Africa every day at the end of the month standing in line for a salary, right? And that opposes them from being resourceful and generating their own income. And for example, I don't know if you watch these National Geographic documentaries or whatever, and there's the scene that I can't get out of my head. It's in a desert, and there's these people standing like this and waiting for the water truck to come because there's no water, right? And what if that water truck does not come?
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people get retrenched in this economy. What if at the end of the month, that water truck does not come? And we don't teach ourselves to dig for water ourselves. We don't take responsibility. We stand there and say, I'm waiting to the end of the month for that salary. Nobody is saying that, hey, maybe I should learn to dig. Maybe I should learn to find my own income, find my own water. And I think if we change that mindset, if we just say, stop blaming others, stop blaming society, stop being on the defensive and saying, I can't afford this, or I can't do this. Just like I said in the beginning, go offensive. Say, how can I do this? How can I teach myself? How can I educate?
Yeah.
Why does he have R1 million? How can I figure out to do that as well?
Yeah, I think people fall into those traps and they don't live within their means in South Africa, and suddenly you're really just throwing money at things that you don't need at the time. I think cutting down, like you've said today, and living within your means and really calculating the risks of throwing money at things that aren't going to give you a return on investment is a really tough one. Okay, so you can go check Albert out on any podcasting app that has a search functionality. All you got to do is search Millionaire Insights with Albert van Wyk. You can also just search Quintessential ZA if you want to, and you'll see a whole bunch of our podcasts pop up as well. But sure, Albert, what's coming up in the next couple of weeks on your channel, on your podcasts? What's happening?
So a lot of content. We're going to post a lot of video content soon. Well, we've already started. So on Mondays, I give some tips like financial tools that you can implement. Wednesdays, we have the book feature. Every Tuesday, I'm live from 3 o'clock. So, if any entrepreneur wants to ask questions, I'm live on Facebook and Instagram on Tuesdays. Thursdays, we have the podcast episodes. Fridays, we have vlogs. So a lot of cool content coming your way in 2019. We have a whole new social media strategy. Super excited about that.
Yeah.
And then a lot of touring as well. We have a lot of destinations on the map this year. Next 2 weeks from now, we're in Bloemfontein for a week. So looking forward to that. That's the first one of the year. So going to travel a lot. So a lot of cool content. I think there's a lot of resources that people can really use to educate themselves and get them on the track to produce wealth.
Yeah, look, it's a long fight. I think we're starting at the bottom of digital transformation in South Africa, and we're trying to literally host these shows for people to just get what they need, almost like books, and just start on a journey to at least get one level up to where they are currently. Listen, Albert van Wyk, that's Millionaire at 22 on Instagram, Millionaire at 22 on Facebook. Albert, we're going to have you back at some point, but good luck with all of the events that you're doing. And hey, man, thanks for being a self-help guru guide in our lives. It really helps.
Thanks so much for having me on the show. And I hope that all of the viewers and listeners got some great value from this show. And thank you for hosting this whole thing, Quintessential ZA, and trying to make a difference in our community in South Africa. We need more people like you.
All right, Albert, have a good one. Cheerio, bud.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.